Hi, my name's Alisa, and I go by two different Twitter handles, Always Lisa and Faye. Um, Welcome to Radio ARTPOP, and welcome to a chance for me to get to share a little bit of my experiences with you. Um, for those of you that know me, I'm 46 years old, or don't know me. I'm 46 years old. I live in Ohio. I've been a Gaga fan since the beginning, but not what you would call super fan. I only really super fan for one band, and that would be Duran Duran. But then also it goes to my age. I am the mother of a 27-year-old daughter who lives in New York. She is who I went to my first Gaga concert with, which was the Art Pop in Pittsburgh almost a year ago. And wow, what a year it's been. This has been absolutely a crazy ride for me. When Tim asked me tonight to host this episode, I was honored, but then I also started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? Why am I even doing this? Then I started thinking about it, and basically, I've had a lot of stuff going on in the last year. And because of the impact Gaga has made in this last year of my life has forever changed. And I definitely think that I have some things to share, and maybe somebody out there will find something I have to say, important. Or if you don't, then just ignore me and go on with your life. But I go back to the beginning of when I first heard applause. My daughter was still living at home. She called me into her room. Mom, you gotta hear this. So we sat down and she played it for me. And I was just enthralled. I was like, this is something different. This is gonna be something good. Little did I know that this was gonna be the start of a life-changing experience for me, and that I was about to embark on a journey that hasn't ended, and I hope never ends. And it's just helped me really realize my spot in the world and how much one person can make a difference to the world around them. I've been a music lover since I was a kid. I grew up as a child of the 80s, graduated from high school in 86, so big bands of the time, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Queen, Blondie, Cyndi Lauper. I watched MTV's kickoff in the beginning of it was August 1st of 1981. I remember sitting in front of the TV waiting for what this new thing was going to be, and watching the Buggles video Killed the Radio Star, and thinking this is going to be something really cool, and not knowing how big video was going to impact the music world from that point. We didn't have the internet back then. New music was either played on the radio, and you sat with your cassette player and hoped that you could get a copy of the song you liked. You hoped that the DJ would shut up long enough to let the intro of the song play, so that when you taped it, you didn't have to listen to the DJ giving the weather or giving whatever was going on with the latest sports team. You hoped you could get a clean copy, which was really, really hard to do. We still had vinyl records. You bought singles on 45s. And I remember taking my $5 big allowance up to the record store, and I could buy an album if I had an extra quarter. So I've been a music fan, like I said, since I was a kid. And in watching how the industry has grown and changed, and seeing where it has gone from then to where it is now, it's been just, again, I keep wanting to use the word mind-blowing, because back in those days, you never thought you could sit down in front of a computer. Computers were these big things that filled warehouses. They weren't something that sat on your desk. And that you could connect into something, which, as we all know today, is the internet, where you could reach out and basically touch somebody, other than being able to pick up a telephone and make a phone call. the only thing that's still really the same technology-wise from when I grew up was that we still have telephones today, and even that, you're carrying a pocket computer. You're not carrying a telephone. We didn't have telephones without wires. Um, and it's just been such an interesting change of watching all of this grow around me in the world as it's expanded. And the internet has brought some of, some things into our living rooms that we wouldn't have necessarily had. And it's also put us in touch with people that we would never have been in touch with to begin with. And the impact has just been absolutely, it's just crazy to me. I know you guys that are the younger generation, you're looking at me going, what the heck is she talking about? If you think I'm an old lady. I may be behind the times. I don't do Twitter very well. I'm still learning. But again, I'm learning. That's a big part of it. But let me kind of go back to part of why I'm here. Music was always the way I escaped from what was going on in my life and what was going on in the world. And certain songs always spoke to me. The message of those songs sometimes made me stop and think about the things that I do and whether I should change what I'm doing, or if it could go from just a little kitschy pop song that was a bunch of mumbo jumbo words to a song that told a story. And being part of the whole art pop experience, it's just about that, not just with me but with everybody. We each have a story to tell, and we're being given this wonderful platform to be able to do so. With art pop itself, from the point I heard applause with my daughter to where I actually heard my first whole stream of the album, I believe, if I remember correctly, the album hadn't released yet or was getting ready to release, and there was something I was able to pull off the internet and got to hear it the first time. And it just, I knew from the beginning to the end that this was something special. A lot of people said that it was too different, but to me it was a piece of kind of what I had grown up with, that people back then took risks. They did things that weren't all for racking up numbers and making the most money and the most internet views and the most Twitter hits and all of that. There was an aspect to music back then that it was just very very pure, or at least I thought it was. And my daughter and I decided, long before Art Pop came out, that when Gaga toured again, we were going to go again. Or we were going to go, not again, but we were going to go. We had originally wanted to go, and then, with the hip issues and the cancellation of the rest of the tour, we didn't get to. So when I had the opportunity to be able to get tickets, you better believe we jumped on it. And I think we had 4 or 5 months before the concert. I can't remember exactly how long. But in the meantime, from the time I started listening to the album, it became almost obsessive to me at one point. There was a lot going on in my life. Life was moving at a crazy, hectic pace. I had my boyfriend and I had just really moved in together, trying to be able to adapt to my daughter living with us as well. And he'd never had kids. So, having me and having an adult kid became a learning experience for him. There were stresses going on. And as always, I buried myself in my music. And I started listening to art pop nonstop from beginning to end. And I think I had a copy in my car, I had my copy on my phone, I had a copy on my computer. Pretty much anytime you looked at me and had my headphones on, I was listening to art pop. I was able to immerse myself and be able to, again, it felt like something new, something different to me. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit and kind of share what part of the past year has been and the catalyst that really brought were on pre-sale. Pittsburgh is where they came. We were able to get them. Pittsburgh's about 2 hours away from us, so it's doable. We go to Pittsburgh a lot for different things. And as the time got closer to the show, I got more excited. More excited. I think my daughter got to the point where she was tired of listening to me talk about it. And we also took her friend Sarah with us, who Sarah is a big Gaga fan, and I think she was excited just to get to go, period. Just the fact that we were getting to do this trip. And I remember being outside the arena and watching all of these different people as we were waiting for the doors to open. And I hadn't ever been to a Gaga show, so I didn't understand at that point the difference of people that we had, families with, younger children. We had, the queens walking around done up to the nines. There was one walking around that I think had heels that were at least that high and hair that was about twice that high. She was something else. And just watching all these different people and the fact that there was this one thing that was bringing us all together, and that was Gaga's music. And that just being able to see the differences kind of opened my eyes and made me think back to those days when, we didn't have all this stuff that goes on with, all the online harassment, the online bullying, all the, it was all face-to-face interaction back then. We didn't have a computer to hide behind or anything like that. And again, just being able to be in this whole environment. The show was amazing. We were up on the left side of the arena we were in the higher priced seats. I'd have loved to have been closer, but it was good. It was cool. But I started having this compulsion that kept telling me, you need to go to the Cleveland show. And I remember there was a point midway through the show where there was a gal who, she was probably in her, maybe somewhere between 14 and 16, that had thrown a stuffed animal up on stage. If I remember correctly, it was a unicorn. I'm not 100% sure. And I remember when her letter was getting read, that turning around and looking at Kate and going, right now, this arena doesn't exist for that girl. Right now, it's just her and Gaga, and she's getting, this is something that she's never going to forget. Little did I know that 10 days later, I was going to have a similar experience. As the show got closer and closer, this thing in the back of my head that said, you should go to Cleveland, was turning into, you need to go to Cleveland, to, you better be going to Cleveland. I don't think I've ever had experienced something that strong before in my life. So typically I fight things like that. I caved, got a hold of some friends, decided I was going to go ahead and go to the show. I don't do floor seats because of my health issues, or standing is, as you guys call them today. Floor seats used to actually have chairs. They're completely different today than what they were back for me growing up, and in a lot of the concerts I've gone to as an adult. So because of my health issues, I don't do them because I don't stand well for long periods of time. But I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So I decided the night before that if I'm going to go, I'm going to either go big or go home. And decided that on a whim, I wrote this letter. I think I wrote it 4 or 5 times before I got it right. I had a stuffed grumpy cat that I had actually bought 2 of. I was going to give one away with a little that point that I know that it was going to be given to Gaga. And I put the letter on Grumpy's neck and decided, okay, this is what's going to happen. Either it's, again, go big or go home. So the show started. It was amazing. It was really cool being up front, down close, as well as where we were. And then at that point, the show came, right at the very end of Aura. And I threw that little grumpy cat with every ounce of energy I had. I've never hit a target in my life before. I've never come close in hitting anything before. And I actually hit Gaga with it. And if you're watching, I apologize to this day. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to. But for whatever reason, she picked up my letter and she read it. And I'm going to try and play the video, and hopefully this will work. So I can kind of share with you guys what happened. remember most of the rest of the show. I was hyperventilating. I remember bits and pieces. I remember being told what to do, where to go. I remember telling my two friends, Kyle and Sarah, that were with me, I'm like, you're not going to believe this, but you're going backstage with me. And them freaking out. And then the concert was over, and the next thing I know is we were being taken backstage and put in this room where we had to wait for Gaga because she was, taking care of the people who had paid for the VIP tickets, and I think it was the art rave zone where they got to go backstage and meet her, and then when that was done, then everybody else was going to get their little bit of time. Sitting in that room, I met people that have changed my life. I met a couple that I don't even remember their names, but I remember them being there and just part of the conversation we had. I remember Jay, who is an artist from Columbus, meeting him, and I have since have a couple other pieces of his artwork since then, the things that he's done, and I really like what he does. I would never have really paid attention had I not met him. Bruno, who's with her tour security, who told us some really funny stories while we were waiting. And the one who made the biggest impact to me was Tim Cox. And again, at that point, I had no idea that any of these people were going to make this big change. I had my time, then I got to talk to Gaga, and I will never, ever forget it. And I will never forget the words that she told me, and just to stay strong and to, keep doing things the way I'm doing, and to be me. And I've tried this past year to not only continue to embrace that because I had already been on that path, but to really try to live that life. I try to be a positive person because I've been through a lot of negative things. I've been, went through a very bad divorce. I was a child of divorced parents. I was dealt with abuse from my father, mental, some physical, nothing to the point of what the really bad things that happened to people. My dad was more of a control freak than anything else. My ex-husband was a control freak, and was just, I've been through a lot, and I've got health problems on top of it, and I do mean the one thing I said in the letter, that I did need to, have a man in my life to make me feel complete. I'm very blessed that in this past year that the man who has taught me how to love again has become my husband. I got married in September. I love him to death, and he is a big part of my world. I don't know where I would be without him right now. But the way that this has changed my perception and my view of the world, it's just, I experienced something that night that was magical, and it's something that I don't know if, whether or not you got to meet Gaga, it shouldn't make a difference on how you treat people or how your perceptions are. We all are here we have one chance in this life, and I really like the lessons and the messages that she tries to teach. And as I started getting more involved with the fan base, I became very dismayed at what I saw there. She teaches us to live life with love, forgiveness, preaches tolerance, and I see how much she put into the littlemonsters.com website and the projects that she's done, and Born Brave Foundation, and I see how many people in this fan base do what we call, and again as an older person, talk, which is, oh yeah, I believe this, I do this, blah 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 blah. But when it comes down to it, do we really walk the walk? Do Gaga says this, I'm a fan, and basically leave it at that. I think if we as a fan base would stop and follow those messages that she's tried time and time again to share, we wouldn't see the bullying that we see amongst fans. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most disappointed with in this fan base. We wouldn't see hate. We would no longer see people pushed to the brink, and sometimes to the point of suicide. We would love each other all for the uniqueness that brought us together. And we need to stop reading into each other's words and assume that because someone disagrees with us, that it means that we hate us or that they're out to destroy us. One of the reasons I left the Little Monsters fan base is because, or .com base, the website, is because I couldn't tolerate the atmosphere. And I stand back and I see that, how much our mother monster tries to teach us, but how very little it seems like people listen and try to emulate. And I know how much as an adult I see and how much it hurts me. And I hope that she isn't standing back, and I hope it doesn't cause her pain to see that how the message is missing the point quite a bit. So I'm going to segue a little bit. I had a couple different questions that were posed to me as to what I should be addressing with this part of this anyway. And one of the first ones is, what was my opinion of ARTPOP as an album? And the album itself, again, like I said, when I got it, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop listening to it. It goes along the lines to me of what I would consider the perfect mixtape. It flows from one song into another, and it does it beautifully, and that's something rare for me. I like each song almost as equally as the last. There isn't, for me to pick an absolute favorite is very difficult. There's only one song that's out of my realm, and it's just because it's a style I don't like, and that's Jewels and Drugs. It's just not my cup of tea. But I still admire Gaga for sticking to her vision and putting it on the record, because this was the record she wanted to make. Just because it didn't sell the numbers that some executives said it should have doesn't mean it wasn't successful. It's up to us as the fans to say whether it was a success or not. I know that it was a success for me because I can still listen to it at any point and still have it make me happy. And if I had to pick a favorite song, I'd probably pick Do What You Want. I just like the beat of it. I like the message. I like that, in the end, you can do what you want to my body, but you're not getting my mind. And that's important. I think it really is. And then Gypsy is a close second. I love the meaning behind Gypsy. I love, if I had my choice, I'd be a world traveler myself. I love going new places, different places. And then, having someone to do it with makes it all the more important. I was also asked, why did I think I was chosen to do my original episode of Radio ARTPOP? And the answer to that for me is simple. Because of the things I've been through, I think that I have a lot to share, and I have some wisdom that I can bring to the fan base that isn't always, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking any of the younger kids in the fan base. I know that the fan base is all ages. The older ones like me, and I make myself sound like I'm ancient, I know I'm not, but the older ones like me, because we have work and we have families and we have children and we have lives that we have to deal with. Our whole worlds don't revolve around high school drama and don't revolve around, what's this pop star doing next? What's that one doing next? Just because we're not as immersed doesn't mean that we aren't just as big fans as you are. I grew up being bullied. I was bullied in school. I was bullied by my father. I was bullied by my ex-husband. Those are all aspects as to that are all parts of me, but they don't define me as to who I am. Again, I'm a survivor. and I choose to live each day to the fullest and try to make it better than the last one. Hoping that I'm helping make the younger fans see that just because there's an age difference, we really aren't all that different. We still go through the same emotions, the same pain, the same sorrow. We all process things differently. The older you get, the better you learn coping mechanisms. Just because you're having a difficult time right now doesn't mean it's not going to get better soon. A lot of people say that, but it really is true. You do go through difficult times in your life that do get better, and a lot of times it helps with the people who are, surrounding you. Um, you know, I have a big thank you to everyone that's helped me on this journey so far, and I know that this is just the beginning of something much more. Um, Again, like I said, meeting Tim that night after the show has gotten me to become involved in a project that is so much bigger than anything I could have ever dreamed. And being involved with Poppy Love and the potential of what it has to do and the message that we're trying to get out there. I am so honored and blessed to be part of it and feel that this is where I'm supposed to be right now, and this is my way of contributing. And again, I learn from each of you, and I know that I sit back and watch a lot of what's going on, and keep in mind that so are other people. You may not think that Gaga's paying attention, but she's paying attention to what people are doing out there. She knows if people are listening and watching what she's doing, and she may be in a bubble that part of what fame does is takes certain things away from you that you take for granted sometimes, and you don't get the private time, you don't get to do some of the things that you really want to do. But on the other hand, you kind of sit back and get to live vicariously through some what other people do. And I know in my heart that she watches the fans and she watches people to see what they're doing, and it hurts me to think that maybe there's things that our fan base is doing that hurts her. And at this point, I'm going to bring this to a close, but I want to issue a challenge to every one of you watching this. Take Gaga's message to heart. Truly listen to what it is she has to say to all of us about being kinder and gentler and stronger people. Stop bullying each other over nonsense. There's life beyond high school. You will survive. Ignore people. Take the higher road. Be the better person. You don't know if the person on the receiving end of your words has had the worst day of their life, and they may be trying to keep a grip on their own sanity. Think before you text, before you tweet, before you post about what the message you're putting out there really, really says. How is it going to be perceived by the person it's intended for? If it's meant to hurt them in any way, stop. Stop. Say something kind and encouraging. Maybe you can make a difference in that moment to someone who's in a really bad place. I know I wouldn't want to be the person who has to live with the thought that maybe the words I said pushed somebody over the edge and made them hurt themselves or kill themselves. I know that I would have a very hard time having to live with that. And this younger generation throws that around so easily. And you guys, we're all here for the same reason. And we need to be a united front. And we need to take care of each other. There's no room for bullying or harassment in this fan base, and I really am saddened by as much as I see. And I look back and I'm like, if I see it and it hurts me, what's it doing to Gaga when she sees it? Just stop. Show her that we are listening as fans. Show her that we know how to do the right thing and to make the right choices. It starts now with each of you. Only you can make your next choice in life a good one or a bad one. Be selfless and choose to make someone else's life better. You'll be surprised at how much better it'll make you feel knowing that you did the right thing. I appreciate you guys hearing me out, and I am so blessed and so thankful to have got this little bit of time with you guys. And I hope you take something away from this as a positive. And let's just stop and make the world better because we have that power.